tonight. Following Board Bylaw 9323, public comment is 3 minutes per agenda item. The board shall limit the total time for public comment for each agenda item to 20 minutes. With board consent, board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public comment. Regular board meetings shall be adjourned by 10:30 p.m. Email public comment. Email public comments sent to the superintendent at the GALT email 24 hours before the board meeting will be read aloud by a meeting facilitator. Email public comments are limited to 450 words. In-person public comments. Please complete a public comment form indicating the item you wish to address and give it to the board meeting assistant. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. Board vote and connectivity. For action items, the motion will be followed by a roll call vote. Should a board member attend the meeting remotely and lose connectivity by teleconference or phone, the meeting will be delayed 5 minutes before reconvening. All of our board trustees are present tonight.
Thank you, Superintendent Young.
Just a few more remarks about our board meeting protocol before we get started tonight. This is a board public meeting. It's not a town hall meeting. This is a meeting for the public to voice their concerns and for the board to listen to those concerns, but not a time for the board to answer questions. That is the difference between a town hall and a public board meeting.
Thank you, Superintendent Yao. We'll now move on to item E, new business. And we have before us agenda item 212.213, and that is board consideration of approval of letter to California Department of Public Health, CDPH, and California Governor regarding K through 12 schools public health guidance. Superintendent Young.
Thank you. Ms. Bach, before I give a brief background with this agenda item, just wanted to make sure our legal counsel, Chris Kiner, was able to join us as a panelist. Okay, thank you. Little background on this agenda item. At our last board meeting on July 28th, the district presented the California Department of Public Health guidance for K-12 schools. And within that report, there was discussion related to the district's liability insurance coverage as it would pertain to following the guidelines to reopen our schools in the fall. And we have included for the public in the packet a legal memo from Schools Insurance Authority. And I would like to just highlight or read a couple paragraphs. This was a big discussion topic at our last meeting, and I was directed to provide this information for public and for our Board of Trustees. The mask mandate is not discretionary for California K-12 districts. Per the directive from the California Department of Health, school districts must require that all students and staff wear face coverings at all times when indoors, regardless of vaccination status. All K-12 districts in the state must comply with this mandate requirement. Therefore, local boards of education and the superintendent do not have discretion about whether or not to enforce the mask mandates for students and staff. The superintendent and other personnel must adopt appropriate enforcement protocols. To be clear, the enforcement protocols must achieve the end result of a student wearing a mask when indoors, or the district is required to exclude the student and offer an alternative educational program. On the back of this letter, page 2, would like to highlight potential consequences of non-compliance. A failure to comply with the statute or regulation could create significant liability exposure for the district. With respect to conduct that could be considered a willful violation of a statute or regulation, particularly involving health and safety requirements, if there is evidence that mask mandates were largely ignored, A jury or judge could impose sizable monetary awards against accountable parties. The next part of the background for this action item is related to another discussion that we had in open session and direction that I was given as superintendent to draft a letter to our Governor Gavin Newsom and the California Department of Public Health. And within this letter, this draft letter, we are requesting additional information about the steps that local districts need to take related to the mask mandate. And we are also requesting local control and decision-making. This letter is also for the public in the board packet. I would just like to highlight a couple areas. The third paragraph, this letter starts by stating, although the district will implement the current CDPH guidelines regarding student and employee masks, we respectfully request the following additional steps from CDPH. We are asking for additional information about when face masks may become optional for fully vaccinated students or for all students in K-12 schools. And will CDPH develop a county-wide or a community-wide threshold for local case rates and vaccination rates that will inform future flexibility on student masking? We're advocating for local control and decisions and implementation of CDPH guidelines. And we request the ability to work with our county public health officials to develop and implement a safe return to in-person instruction. With this agenda item, we do have public comment. We have 13 emails that have been delivered to us. And then I believe we also have, Ms. Bach, 8 or 9 public comments. We have 7. So at this time, Mr. Silva, would you like us to start with public comment? Any clarifying questions on this background? I know we'll open up for discussion, I believe, after comment.
Correct. We'll have board discussion after public comment. So at this time, I would prefer to hear from the written public comment first. And then after that, we will have public comment from those that came here to speak before us. So let's go ahead and begin with the written portion of that.
All right. My name is Myrna Gold. I am the mother of 2 excellent students who attend a Galt Public Elementary School. I am writing to express my deep concern for the school district's 21-22 plan that may consider making masks optional and ask that you mandate masks in our schools. Any plan to make masks optional goes against the guidance of both the Centers of Disease Control and American Academy of Pediatrics. It ignores the science on COVID transmission in kids and on the effectiveness of masks, and fails to give our youngest kids who are not yet vaccine eligible a chance to evade infection after over a year of sacrifice. All available evidence indicates that SARS will spread wildly in schools without mitigation efforts, including universal masking, firmly in place. The CDC and the AAP agree. Both organizations have released guidance indicating that schools should mandate masks for students, staff, and visitors. As a local leader, you should listen to them. Infections in California declined in the spring and summer as vaccination rates increased. But the new Delta variant poses a serious threat and is much more transmissible than previous variants. Data from our local area reflect that troubling reality. Sacramento County, as of Tuesday, August 3rd, had recorded more COVID-19 cases per capita in the last week than any other county statewide, with at least 100,000 residents, according to numbers updated Tuesday by the California Department of Health. The local health office on Tuesday reported a daily average of 147 new cases over the past week, 9.3 per 100,000 residents. The age distribution of new infections and hospitalizations also shifted downward, with kids representing a greater proportion of infections and hospitalizations than in previous months. This will only get worse if kids return to school without required masking and other mitigation strategies in place. The science is clear on COVID, and kids is clear. Children can be affected with SARS and can get sick with COVID and die of COVID and can spread the virus to others. As the first week of July 21, more than 200,000 kids in the US had been hospitalized and nearly 400 kids had died from COVID. Recent studies estimate that anywhere from 10 to 45% of kids under 12, mostly children of color in economic hardship who are infected by SARS, experience long-haul symptoms that last for more than 5 weeks after diagnosis, even if they experience mild acute infections. Importantly, kids can transmit COVID to unvaccinated and otherwise vulnerable family members and friends. In 2020, we learned a lot about reducing transmission and infections, and masks have emerged as a particularly important scientific proven mitigation strategy. Mask mandates in schools prevented high levels of in-school transmission during the 2021 school year. The science is clear. Reopening schools without mask mandates and other mitigation efforts, while the Delta variant surges, will result in high levels of transmission and infection in kids and add a household and community spread, even among the vaccinated. Thank you, Myron Gold. Hello, my name is Jennifer Schmidt. I am a local mama to 4 children. I am pleading alongside so many other parents that you agree to give us the choice whether or not to mask our kids. We have supported our kids the best we could have in the last 18 months. To say our kids are behind is an understatement. I remember 18 months ago thinking about how masking our kids to send to school for hours was unacceptable. However, now that we have had minimal progress, most parents are so desperate for their kids to get back to normal, adequate education. So we now find ourselves having to justify this unacceptable behavior. We can no longer afford to deal with the complications these masks cause, both physically and mentally. My oldest will be going into 8th. He's gotten his fundamentals down prior to this pandemic and is able to pretty much teach himself anything. But my 2 girls, 5th and 3rd grade, are missing tons of pieces and cannot successfully move forward without intervention. My youngest is just starting out her educational journey, and it breaks my heart to think she won't be able to see her teacher smile, make new friends the way normal kids do, learn phonics the way she needs to, so she'll be able to learn to read and be a successful student in the future. We are doing kids a great disservice to not think of them and their future and only of liabilities to nameless faces and agencies. This pandemic has caused mental and emotional hardships in all of my children that we will be working on for years to come. If we don't make a change now, I fear some damage will be irreversible. We are all responsible for our own actions, and to not speak up or at least try to make a difference for fear of being outnumbered is unacceptable. I am a concerned citizen who is against the board taking control to avoid the CDPH mitigation mandate to continue masking indoors for Galt K-12 schools. Galt's COVID-19 cases are again spiking, and we are seeing an explosion of pediatric cases across the country. The nearby Elk Grove Unified School District even realized these facts and is requiring masking by all staff and students throughout the schools. I support the CDPH mitigation plan to continue universal indoor masking for all K-12 schools, as masks are currently our best line of mitigation to prevent our youth from contracting COVID. Masks will also help protect Galt's teachers, school staff, and the community as a whole from the spread of COVID-19. Thank you, Christina Witt. Good morning. My name is Veronica Kaufman, and I have a rising 3rd grader in the district. I am writing today to implore the entire board to vote no on agenda item 212.213. While I understand there are some in our community that are opposed to their children wearing masks, I ask the board to consider the following. Galt Elementary is fortunate to have both a school psychologist and either a counselor or social worker at every single school site. This will allow any child that is having difficulties with wearing a mask or any other difficulties due to this pandemic to receive appropriate and professional care on site. These professionals can work with the parents, caregivers, if additional assistance is needed. Resources are available, and the district is thankfully equipped to serve our students. Galt Elementary has also prepared for an alternative learning path for those families that still choose not to allow their children to wear a mask. That's the Bright Future Home Learning Academy. This will allow families to educate their children off campus while still allowing them to take part in certain campus learning if they follow mask guidelines. Galt infections rates are increasing rapidly. Our case rate has gone from 2,895 on July 12th to 2,907 and then 2,951. Finally to 3,105 on August 9th. Galt is only at 44% partially vaccinated as of August 6th. And Sacramento County is now seeing an average of 45 new pediatric cases in the 0 to 9 age group each day. Pediatric cases across the US are now spiking, and it's not only the case rates. We are seeing an increase in children having long-term effect of SARS and a troubling increase in hospitalizations, including PICU admittance. There is a clear correlation in areas that are not consistently employing mitigation measures such as masking. I also ask that you consider the rationale for the CDPH indoor mask mandate. Our public health officials recognize the need for our children to partake in full-time person education. They also are balancing the need to protect the population from contracting SARS. In order to do this, they have come up with reducing the distancing mitigation measures with strengthening the masking mitigation measures. This will allow more students to be in the classroom while still reducing the likelihood of a COVID outbreak in our schools, which would disrupt learning once again. This is a difficult and highly emotional situation for many. You, as our Board of Education, have been entrusted with thousands of our children. I am asking you both, as a concerned parent and concerned citizen, to listen to the experts on this issue. Countless epidemiologists, virologists, public health officials, and infectious disease experts have concluded that universal, consistent, and correct mask wearing is the best way to protect our children who are not able to be vaccinated. It is now up to you to ensure our children are protected by abiding by and enforcing CDPH indoor mask mandate for all K-12 schools. Thank you, Veronica Kaufman. I am writing to you regarding the proposal to request release from the mask mandate for our school. I can't actually believe that this is even up for discussion, especially in Galt where COVID numbers have been high and vaccination rates are low. I am embarrassed that our board is even considering reducing the safety protections of our students and staff even more than they already have. In this upcoming year, we will be following absolutely none of the COVID protections except for wearing of masks. We are no longer following social distancing with the wording when possible. We are not keeping students in cohorts as we will be exchanging students throughout the campus all day long. Back to school nights with hundreds of parents on campus and packed into small classrooms are scheduled status quo. The only protections that we are still providing for staff and students are masks. Our district COVID policies state that we will be following the science and the state mandates. Requesting a waiver for protective masks flies in the face of that pledge. At the last board meeting, a handful of disgruntled parents who have been fighting against any protections against COVID spoke out in their newest rant. And now it appears that you are considering allowing the most ignorant among us to divert our energies away from making sure our students and staff are safe and instead let the anti-science ignorance be our mission statement. It is just embarrassing. What you are not considering is that there are more concerned parents who do not want their children at school where COVID is rampant and masks are not required. Those parents may not be speaking up at these board meetings, but they will be keeping their kids home when you make their schools unsafe. I urge you to abandon this embarrassing proposal and continue supporting the science that is helping us to keep students and staff safe in our district. Thank you, Kim Lozama. As a recent retiree from the district, I am flabbergasted at the notion that the board is considering requesting a release from the state regarding mandating mask wearing at schools. We worked extremely hard to keep all students and staff members safe from March 2020 until present. To imagine undoing that final and apparently only safety measure because of the rants and threats of a few vocal anti-science community members is absolutely mind-boggling. Many teachers and families are already apprehensive about returning to full day, full class instruction. If you deny them that last shred of protection, expect families to remove their children and teachers to request leave of absences. Thank you, Kathy Loesch. As a father of 3 children in your schools, agenda item 212.213 is a cause for concern for myself and my family here in the community. Masks, as cumbersome as we may all find them, are only one of 3 ways to keep our kids safe this year. The other 2 being social distancing and vaccines. Social distancing is hard to execute for indoor learning with poor ventilations in our classrooms, and we still don't have FDA approval for vaccines for our kids. That being said, the masks are all that we have as a barrier to keep our children out of hospitals and off ventilators, while still nurturing their social and intellectual needs. Education is an exceptionally important part of a child's life, one that cannot be overstated. I agree with the possibility of full in-person schooling, but only when done the safest way possible. Your drafting of a letter to the state asking for the ability to manage your own mask mandate signifies that you don't believe in the science and won't stand up for what's for right with children. We need the science to guide our decisions, as we have an obligation to our future leaders to keep them not only healthy, but also to keep them focused on their social responsibilities as functional members of our community. I ask that you reconsider this unnecessary letter and focus your efforts on keeping our kids safe and educated, rather than wasting time and resources to have the ability to endanger our kids. Galt needs you to do the right thing, and let's let the mask objections stop running this board and start focusing on more important issues. Vote no on agenda item 212.213, Tony Woodward. Dear Galt Elementary trustees and admission, as a parent of an under 12 child in the district and as an educator, I am writing to ask that board continue to make masks mandatory for all staff and students. This is not the time for the district to be applying for a state waiver with COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations on the rise. In addition, no one under 12 is vaccinated, making them vulnerable to contracting and spreading COVID. Galt's COVID-19 cases are increasing with the Delta variant, and there is a direct correlation between community spread and spread of COVID-19 in schools. Masks remain the only protection that our children have against COVID. Thank you, Erica Brossard. And I'm going to pass the reading on to our directors. Donna Whitlock, if you can continue.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is from Greg Davidson, 30-year resident of Galt. Dear board members, please follow the guidance you are given from our county, state, and national health directors. They are in those positions to protect us. We have appointed you with the #1 job of protecting our children. Please do so by starting the year with universal masking. Schools are starting to open, and soon after, the ICUs are filling up, especially the pediatric ICUs. We are still an under-vaccinated community, and 40% of us are ignoring the businesses' mask mandates now. These facts, added to unmasked children, is a recipe for more illness and more shutdowns. Please do the right thing. Thank you. This letter is from Laura Corwin. Good evening to the members of the board and cabinet. Thank you for taking the time to listen to members of the GJUESD community. I am a parent of 2 young children in the district who are set to attend in-person school next week. I also have a primary grade teaching background. I know how valuable in-person instruction can be for so many students for their academic, social, and emotional growth from both teacher and parent perspectives. I fully support the offering of in-person full-day learning to all families, as well as the home learning academy option. After my children attended a full year of distance learning last year, they really enjoyed being in person for the summer program. Thank you for offering the summer program and for following the public health guidelines at the time. I believe an essential aspect of opening this school year is to do it safely, following all public health guidelines. This includes the current public health mask mandate indoors. As numerous reputable medical professionals and organizations have shared, properly worn masks indoors are necessary tools to lessen the spread of COVID-19. Masks indoors are a key element in allowing children the opportunity to learn in person, especially when social distancing is difficult to maintain in classrooms during full school days. If the GJUSD does not enforce the indoor mask mandate, while it is a key element in public health guidelines, there is an even more risk that students will miss out on important in-person learning due to necessary quarantines due to illness or exposure. I believe GALT's Grow and Learn Together initiative is commendable. It is based on the LCAP goals. One, engaging learners in pre-K-8 through the focus on equity, access, and academic rigor with inclusive practices in a variety of environments. Two, promoting pre-K whole learner development through social and emotional learning opportunities in a variety of environments. For these goals to be most effectively achieved, most students need to be learning in person at school. Therefore, giving all students access to safe, high-quality instruction in person is essential. If public health guidelines require masks be worn indoors, then that is what should be done to help keep as many children in school to grow and learn together. Please continue to follow and enforce public health guidelines, including properly worn masks indoors, so that we are best set up for a healthy, successful school year. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kim Grace. I have lived in Galt most of my life. Together with my husband, we are raising our two daughters, 5th grade and 9th grade, in this great little town that we love so much. We are pleading alongside with so many other parents that you give us a choice to mask our own children at school. My 5th grade broke down in tears when I told her that she once again needs to be masked at school. My heart broke as I had to tell her that our hands were tied. Please let us parents decide what is best for our children. I do not want my child to be in the middle of these adult issues. I do not want her to be segregated at school. I do not want her to lay down and be complacent. I am teaching her to stand up for her beliefs. Please help us. We just want what is best for our children. Thank you. This is from Linda Gonzalez Reed. I was shocked to learn that the Galt School District is entertaining the idea of requesting a state exemption so that students are not required to wear masks. This would fly in the face of all guidance from the state health department, pediatricians, and medical professionals. As a teacher, my #1 responsibility is to keep students safe. Parents send their children to school trusting that we will keep them safe. Every year, there are students with asthma and other high-risk health issues. They are all unvaccinated. We should be doing absolutely everything we can to protect them, surround them with a community of vaccinated people, providing quality masks, and maintaining social distance. I taught in the classroom from March 2021 through summer school. While no one liked wearing a mask, students did it without complaint. They were happy to be in school with their friends and teachers. Please keep all of us, students and staff, safe by doing what you know is right. Provide the safeguards we all need to remain healthy and in school. Thank you. This is from Briley Grace, 5th grader. Kids and adults need fresh air to breathe. When we have a mask, we can't do that. Last year, when we went to school for 2.5 hours, we had to wear a mask inside and outside. Now we will be wearing a mask for 6 hours all day at school. And I personally do not like masks. We need to have the option to wear a mask. Some people want to wear masks, some people don't. Some are scared and some just want to breathe. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, now at this time, we'll go ahead and we'll receive public comment from members of the audience. And Kawhi Bach will let us know in order who's going to be able to come up and speak. And I just want to give you a little reminder, you're limited to 3 minutes. Usually, around 2 minutes and 30 seconds, we give you a gentle reminder that you have another 30 seconds left. This is not the Gong Show. I don't have somebody with a net to come haul you off, but we ask that you be respectful of each other in your comments and that you stick to the 3 minutes so that everybody gets a fair opportunity to speak. So who's up next?
Thank you, Mr. Silva. Our first public comment is from Heather Wetzel. Sorry. Good evening, trustees and leadership community. My name is Heather Wetzel. I'm a fifth grade teacher at Marengo Ranch. I'm also the union president for the elementary school district. I'm here to ask that we follow the guidelines as they are. They are what is based on science and they will evolve. We've seen that over the last year. Unfortunately, COVID is also evolving. The Delta variant is another beast of its own. Children are affected. Children I know are affected, more so than when I had students contract COVID-19 in December and January, and we were on quarantine. They had your typical flu. It really wasn't a big deal for them. On the flip side, I have attended funerals for family members, friends of family members, that COVID was what ended up being the last thing their families get to remember. It is difficult. We all experience it in different ways, and God bless those that don't have to experience it one way or another. If this little cloth thing means I don't have to shut my classroom down and my students can be in front of me and I can teach them, I hate it, but I'll wear it. If it means when I go to a soccer tournament and I come back, I don't spread something to my students or to another staff member, I will wear it. We do have to be safe. I know it's miserable. I have health conditions. My doctors advise against me wearing this. My health is not as important as my students. My health is not as important as my colleagues. I will do this for them. If the numbers decrease, the restrictions will lessen. And I think we should move swiftly when the guidelines change. Unfortunately, the numbers are spiking. The data was spoken in the one email, and it is so scary to see how many children are affected by this one. I have 2 friends in the hospital right now with the Delta variant.
30 seconds.
So they're in the 40-year-old age group. They're not elderly. They're not normally sick. But there they are. So if this is what helps us stay in the classroom for now, please. We don't love it. I agree with the 5th grader. We need our fresh air. I promise as a 5th grade teacher, we'll get lots of breathing breaks. I'll do as much as I can outside with these kids. But I don't want to send anybody home and I don't want to shut down again. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Veronica Kaufman.
Good evening. My name is Veronica Kaufman. I have a rising 3rd grader in the district. I have emailed the board my thoughts regarding agenda item 212.213. Sorry, that was very emotional. I understand the argument for this agenda item is that each parent knows their child best, and each parent should be able to make decisions for their own child. However, this is not only about my child. This is not about their child. And this is not even just about your children. This is about several thousand children in our district and how their health and education affect our community. And you, as our elected board members, are responsible for setting aside any preconceived notions that you may have to keep all of them safe. To the best of my knowledge, none of you are health experts. Epidemiologists, virologists, public health professionals, infectious disease experts, child psychologists, and more have all looked at the issue of utilizing masks in school as a mitigation measure to prevent COVID-19. And the consensus is in masking, particularly indoors, is a necessity especially when physical distancing is not used. So tonight, you have a choice to make. You can choose to listen to the experts and vote no on agenda item 212.213, and this district can enforce the CDPH mandate for the indoor masking of all K-12 schools. Or you can pass this agenda item and put the children that you have been charged to protect at unnecessary risk. As such, if this board chooses to pass agenda item 212.213, I will immediately contact the School Insurance Authority, Sacramento County Health Department, California Department of Health, Congressional Representative Jerry McNerney, the California Department of Education, including personally looping in Dr. Tony Thurman, the California Health and Human Services Agency. And furthermore, if my child should contract SARS-CoV-2 while on campus, I will hold this district and each of you personally liable. All of our children deserve to have a quality, safe, in-person education. At this time, as uncomfortable or inconvenient as wearing a mask may be,
30 seconds.
masking up is the best mitigation measure we have. Tonight, you hold thousands of children's lives in your hands. And I once again implore you to vote no on agenda item 212.213. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Annette Coonsey.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. Just wanted to say thank you for your consideration of this resolution. I think that's a great first step, and I think that's exactly what it is. You've heard a lot, probably on both sides, pro, against, the science says this, the science says that. But I think we all know that we are in a dangerous time of evolving into something that perhaps we don't want. We don't want our children to be without smiles. We have all probably had children and see how they interact with each other, see that genuine energy that cannot be shared with a mask, see that genuine smile when a teacher walks into a room and they see their child. So I want to say we could argue about the science all day long. We could argue about the science till the cows come home. There have been no children without comorbidities in this country that have died. And one death, of course, is horrible, but I just want to say, be very careful about what we're evolving into, not just because of what's happening here on a micro level, but also on a macro level. This is a line in the sand that the parents are taking to determine if they want to continue in the public school system. I have had 4 children come through the public school system. And I just want to say that each of those have been successful. They form relationships, but right now, my last one is in school, and I'm really concerned about her ability to form normal relationships as she proceeds through the last years of her school. So I would just say, in your heart of hearts, and that's what I'm talking with you. I'm talking with you about your heart of hearts when you're alone with your own thoughts. Do you really think that masking children is warranted? Do you think it's effective? And do you think it's something that we want to do forever? Because I think if you ask yourself, when is this going to end? No one can say when this is going to end. They keep moving that goalpost. So it's going to be up to you guys as leaders for the school district, as leaders for our town, to step up and say, we're not going to do this anymore. We need to push back. And if you vote yes, which I hope you do, and if you don't get a response back, just like the high school board has said and committed to, is they will take it to the next step to say, hey, we want a response. And then if that is not satisfactory, what is our next step? So I would say pursue this with a limitless figure, the way you would if you wanted a new building, the way you would if you wanted an award for your teacher. I would say, please, please, please pursue this with limitless vigor. I think
30
you all
seconds.
know, thank you. I think you all know that we have a community that is based on children loving each other and children loving the adults. And I would just say, in your heart of hearts, please do what's right. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Lisa Tenas.
I actually just have a few questions more than I do statements. I'm sure you guys have already heard everything in the book on both sides. I do want to say it's sad that people are threatening the school when their kid gets sick. If you're that worried, don't send them. It's your choice. But I do want to say that I appreciate you guys writing your letters, because that was one of my questions, what the updates were on that. I do have a question about, for one, it kind of pisses me off that I heard today that back to school is on Zoom. I want to know why we are going back to school with masks, with everything. Why do the kids not get to go to their classrooms to meet their teacher? So that is a question I know you guys talked about not answering questions, but I hope you answer a few. Also, I have a question about the vaccination rates with the teachers, because now that we have this new mandate going on everywhere, are we going to be lacking teachers? Because I know especially Galt does not have a high rate of vaccinations. So that is also going to hurt our school and our students. And my other question is the quarantine problem, vaccinated versus unvaccinated. It is shown by the CDC, and I work in the health field. So I am all for science, but I am not for political science. And most of this is political. And everybody can argue their sides, but I am not for political side. And when it comes to the vaccinated and unvaccinated, if both are in the classroom exposed and only the vaccinated gets to stay and the unvaccinated gets to go, it is shown and proven that these vaccinated kids and adults are also getting it. So you're letting one kid stay in when the other one's just as easy spreadable. So I think that's another consideration, and it's not fair. And it's not fair to the kids if we're talking about safety and science, because they can spread it. CDC even says, we don't know. Most of these kids and adults have had it, have antibodies. That doesn't matter. So I just wanted to ask these questions, and hopefully somebody's jotting them down because they are important. And I hope our schools get to stay open, because right now, if our governor stays in office, we will probably be shut down again. So I encourage everybody to vote.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Rosendo Laura, sorry.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say you are in a really hard position, and I don't envy it. I don't think any one of us would like to be in your position for very long during these times where you're hearing both sides pleading with you very emotionally with some heart-wrenching stories. Each of us have stories that we know of people who have had hardship because of COVID, people who have passed away. I know in my family, I had a father who passed away that I wasn't able to see for a whole year because of COVID shutdowns, and I would argue unnecessarily. And so there's science on both sides, and there's such passions on both sides. So I hope I could just help bring some clarity as to what the decisions are about, and that is for the kids. In the past 18 months, I have seen a lot and heard a lot about what COVID is doing, or more so what it could possibly do. In the meantime, we have 18 months to look back on and know what it has done, in fact, to our kids already. We already have evidence with which we could project forward because of what has already happened. There's been an incredible rate of depression in kids. There's an unadvocated condition that our kids have right now. It's unadvocated for, and they are depressed. What is happening is not normal. It's a very difficult position that you're in to try to figure out how to keep the kids safe and yet open so they can have a normal environment, as close to typical environment with which to be educated. As it is right now, if you're masked, you aren't getting a full degree or even close to a normal education. Socialization happens through facial expressions. We know that by science, by studies, academia has told us that. Language acquisition happens by reading lips, by reading facial expressions. You remove the face, you remove that part of education. You move that part of connecting. And so I'd like to draw attention to the kids, to where their hearts are and where they will be if we continue this way. And I'd also like to just provide support to you too. even if it's just in word. It's a hard position that you're in. I think we're a great community of Galt. I think it would be really important for us not to bite at each other and hurt each other. We all have passionate reasons, solid reasons for why we feel the way we feel. But let us instead keep on hearing each other and ask you to hear us out and make it a decision that
30
is actually
seconds.
best for the kids long-term. There's already long-term negative effects that are going to happen. Perhaps right now we can make a decision for a positive trend forward. Moving forward, perhaps we could think about not so much how we could be safe from negative or financial repercussions, but simply be guided by what's best for the kids overall, long-term, what is complete, comprehensive wellness. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Martha Vilma.
Let me start off with these stats here. 94,000 new cases in children in the US this week, 72,000 the previous week. They're currently making up 15% of new cases, and the majority of those in the PICU. Children do not mind masking in order to be with their classmates again. I've seen it firsthand in the K-8 environment. They want to be safe. It is their parents drilling their own propaganda into their little minds, and they are made to carry their burden. These kids know to wear seatbelts, helmets, life jackets, amongst other things meant to protect them. They know right from wrong. This isn't coming from them. We all know that the only reason why this is such is because it has been politicized. All of a sudden, the same parents who have many vaccines injected into themselves have willingly given their children these vaccines and complacently submitted proof of such to the schools to allow entry, have an issue with this vaccine, again, because it's been politicized. Things like chickenpox, smallpox, polio, and the measles are no longer killing us because of vaccines, not because of natural immunity. For the vulnerable in this age range that can't get vaccinated, we must protect them and enforce masks. No data exists to support the harmful effects of masking. In 3 large metro school districts in Utah, Georgia, and Illinois, local and state public health showed that students who masked, socially distanced, and practiced sound hygiene were able to gather for school with very low transmission rates. Then we see what happens when masks are made optional, like the Arkansas school district that had over 950 students quarantined due to over 70 positive COVID cases in the first week of school. This was the district's response to that. Quote, if all students and teachers had been wearing a mask appropriately, then today's 18 positive cases would be isolated, but there would be no resulting quarantines for anyone else. Do you want this to be you a few weeks from now? I cannot wrap my head around how any parent would willingly expose their children by sending them into a highly populated facility unprotected in the midst of a pandemic. They're actually okay with gambling their health, hoping they'll be the one with the light case and not be one of the ones hospitalized. I'm not willing to take that chance, and I pray that you as a board aren't willing to either. And for the last time, let's not focus on the mortality rate. Not only will each case lead to additional quarantines, but the majority of kids and adults who contract COVID have long-term symptoms way beyond their initial recovery. From break fog and chest pain,
30 seconds.
that many like me still feel, to being oxygen dependent, having transplants, and much more. These are the ones who, quote, survive. As a human being and a follower of Jesus Christ, I will gladly watch out for all of my neighbors. It is not a lot to ask. And if you don't like it, don't send your kid. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Olivia Arribando.
Hello, yeah, I just got a couple things to say because I'm actually a kid and I actually went to school during this whole thing. So I went to St. Anne's, so I was fortunate enough to have a school that actually cared about kids and cared about what was best for us. But wearing the mask, me and my brother have started getting massive acne all over our faces in places we've never had it before, right here on our cheeks. We've never had acne on our cheeks before. And I remember a lot of times when it was really hypocritical, when the schools wouldn't go along with what the CDC said, and they would make us stand 6 feet when there was 3 feet. I never understood any of it, but it just didn't make sense. And in 8th grade, we're all tall, and we have these plastic things around our desks, but our faces were over the plastic things. So there was no point to have the plastic thing on our desk. It was just there to appease the scared people, I guess. I don't like wearing it at all. As a kid, I do not like wearing the mask. And I saw a bunch of little kids. They don't like wearing it either. I went to Disneyland and everyone was in line with no masks. I was around kids with no masks. I'm okay. I'm alive. And when there's so much uncertainty, why would we just jump to one way of thinking without considering both? When there's still so much to be decided that we don't know about, why would we just jump to one way of thinking? And yeah, I don't understand it at all. It just doesn't make sense to me. And that's all I have to say, is that it was awful just wearing the mask and having to go through it all. And that's it.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Marcy Aribando.
Good evening. I know this, I feel your guys' pain up there. I'm sorry for some of the things you've probably taken the grief. I will be very short, and I respect both sides of the argument, but as any of you know, that if you go on the internet, you'll find any kind of information that supports one position or the other. And I could tell you that I will keep you in my prayers for the hard decisions that you are doing. But I'd like to just remind you guys that you could start leading and maybe consider what Orange County just recently did 5 days ago. The Orange County Board sued Governor Newsom over the mandates, and consider pushing that issue. And I do respect people's right to decide. I'm married to a physician. I'm an attorney myself. And there are two sides to all arguments, but I do want to remind people about freedom. We all have freedom here. And I know a lot of people died for our freedom, took a lot of risks. And as you board members up there, I would encourage you to lead and potentially reach out to the Orange County attorney that's representing that district and fight hard for people. And I also understand that you must follow the law. And you kind of are in a hard place, but I don't believe legally that just asking them to clarify is going to get you to where you need to be, because you're not going to get a response. That response is never going to come. So if parents want to hold the board accountable, I'm telling you right now, nothing's going to come of that request. You need to urge people to start suing. You need to sue people. Yes, you do. You really do. You need to get the law involved. And I think it is unfortunate that people make threats to you, because you guys are dedicating your time about if their child gets sick. That shouldn't happen. As a matter of fact, it could potentially be a crime to threaten a government official. You might want to look at that as well, because it would be, it's just not right to do that to you guys. I know you guys are stuck, but I would highly encourage you to reach out again to Orange County, their board district, and follow suit. And hopefully many other boards will follow suit and sue Governor Newsom. But again, on September 14th is the Newsom recall. And hopefully soon he will be out of office and you guys won't have to be bothered with this anymore. Thank you. And I will keep you all in my prayers. God bless you all and the decisions that you're making.
Thank you. Board President, Mr. Silva, we have 3 more public comment requests.
That's from members present?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and entertain those.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Sheetal Pal.
Good evening. I want to first say my name is Sheetal Pal. I'm the resource teacher at Marengo, and this is my 6th year here at the district. I just want to give a little background. I did choose this district because I am from Kentucky, and this felt like home to me. It felt like a small community, and I felt at home here. And I'm also the new chair, bargaining for our union here. I want to thank you guys for meeting with us, the district team, before school started, so we can try to get to make sure our students and staff come back to school safe, with safety in the forefront. I appreciate that. I'm speaking to you tonight because, like you, I want to see our students back in schools. Masks are necessary for that to happen and everyone to be safe. I want to tell you a story of something that recently happened to my family. And that's kind of why I'm really passionate about this situation. My 10-year-old and 7-year-old love basketball, as do I, being from Kentucky. It's kind of in their blood. We thought it was safe enough to start up again this summer. 3 weeks ago at their last game, the coach, not knowing that he was infected and no mask mandate was in place for their league, my 10-year-old tested positive, as well as my husband, as well as many of the people in the league. Myself and my 7-year-old both had our mask on and did not test positive. Luckily, my husband, who was vaccinated, and my son were able to recover with mild to moderate symptoms. Our close friend, who was also in the league, and he's only 11 and no underlying symptoms or no underlying complications that he had, is still lying in the hospital. He's not able to keep anything down. He's been there a week, and the doctors are concerned about his heart now. And like I said, there was no underlying conditions that we needed to worry about, not even asthma. And this virus is attacking our children at an alarming rate. Today, I read an article in the SACB. They said that there's 5,600 COVID infections in children younger than 19, and more than 12,000 in the residents ages 10 through 19. Between July 1st and July 14th, there was less than 5,000. And just between July 15th and July 28th, it rose to almost 14,000. There were 5 deaths among children in California in July. And from March of 2020, when the world shut down, till
30
June
seconds.
of 2021, there was only 23 deaths. So with that said, we need to follow the guidance of the health department, keep our mask on. If we can keep one child out of the hospital and in school and safe, where they should feel safe, we should all feel safe going to work, going to school, then I think we've done our jobs. Thank you for your time, your service, and your consideration.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Rhonda Dela Cruz.
Good evening. What I would like to just start out with is that on our last meeting, there was an issue regarding the insurance and asking for a copy of the insurance with their letterhead. And that's why the board brought that up, because the board brought it up. I asked for that to please be brought in on their letterhead, which of course we don't have. It's just been sent by your legal memorandum. And so just note that, you know, those types of things that we're asking for, those, and a memorandum is just a clarification of whatever somebody else has deemed it. We were asking for that. So at this point, we don't have it. It also states in there that, you know, you don't have insurance, only but $50,000. That insurance was asked about again, that you guys were going to go ahead and go forth with this because you were told that you guys would be sued if in fact you didn't do this. Your insurance company told you this. So I guess where I'm really going with this is that it's frustrating for us as a community to not be able to trust our leaders. We have it it's so corrupt all the way around. But at this level, this is one thing we're trying to stop. We're trying to be proactive here. The next thing is that, what I would like to just say is that, you know, the board does still, I am still saying to the board, you still do have obligation. You have obligation to make the right decisions, to do your own research. And even though this letter says that you don't, even the head of the DOJ of the United States of America, William Barr, even stated that just because we're in a pandemic, we as United States citizens do not lose our constitutional rights. So therefore, you guys still are. So you may go ahead and please talk to your legal department again if you would like. But the next thing I really want to get to is that everybody's coming up here and talking about how this is just all blown out of proportion and that these masks are so good and everything else that's involved. And what I would just like to say to you is get yourself educated by science, by the scientists and science. Stop educating yourself from mainstream media and politicians.
30 seconds.
Mainstream media and politicians verify the true science and science of the world. The public, this is a public health fiasco. Our children and young children are collateral damage. This was made by a Harvard epidemiologist, Martin Kulldorff. It's Kulldorff. He and three other of his associations, associates made a report. I am actually writing this to you, giving you.
Thank you,
the
Ms. Dela
spelling.
Cruz. Your time is up.
Okay, well, I'm gonna still finish real quick. Bottom line is that in this report, it says that all the harm that has been done, they did it with 3 different epidemiologists from Yale, from Harvard, so that they could not be discredited. When they did this report up, they actually had 10,000 of their associates from the world that signed on to this. Please look this up, get yourself educated for our children, for our future. The reality is
Ms.
that
Dela
the
Cruz, thank
science,
you very much. Your time is up.
okay, the science, not just what everybody.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Sarah Murray.
It's not about masks, sorry. I was just hoping to ask you to take into consideration for like future meetings. I think it's really unfair that somebody gets to talk for 3 minutes up here and submit an email. That's like double time when somebody else could like talk. That's just my opinion, and I don't think it's appropriate to take video or pictures of people talking. So especially without their permission. And we had a minor up here talking who her picture was getting taken and without permission. So just those 2 things, I think that should be addressed in future meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call up Annette Coonsey once more. She is going to read an email on behalf of Christy Ward.
Just want to say thank you for making this accommodation. She's out of town. It sounds like there was a little miscommunication in her comment. So thank you very much for this. So this is from Christy Ward. I had some concern by parts of the letter to County Health and the governor that is supposed to represent the community and student body in which the Educational Institute serves. I found parts misleading. The letter stated, the purpose of this letter is to request direction and information on potential future changes to the indoor masking requirements. The letter went on to request the following: further guidance on the expectations put on the local districts to enforce masks for all students. We do not need any more direction or guidance. Please listen to the community. This should not be the purpose of the letter. As mentioned prior, we want a letter to the Sacramento County Health, CDPH, and the governor requesting local control. This should be the purpose of the letter, not simply advocating for this, fight for it. Please also send the letter to CDPH. Our youth also need additional verbiage added, such as our school district will strongly recommend the following the CDPH guidance, but will not be placed in the compromising position of enforcement, but instead focus on the education and learning loss and mental wellness. I am requesting this to be added. Additionally, in the letter, it goes on to ask, under what circumstances, if any, will face masks become optional for fully vaccinated students or all students in K-12 schools? The question is not warranted. For me, this is becoming implied. It is becoming implied the school board's willingness to require an emergency release vaccine to our youth. This is not school boards, the CDC, CDPH, governors, or president's choice to put this onto my children. These are my children. Any talk of any type of vaccination will be through me, not my school board, with the county health and the governor. Please retract statements that take us backwards 5 steps. Equitable access to education has been stripped from youth across the majority of the state of California. This year in our state, nearly all students will be returning full-time. With this, the CDPH requires us all to wear a mask. While I do not consent to my children wearing a medical device that causes harm to them, my choice for my children is a firm no. No, they will not wear a mask. As mentioned before, my children will come to school maskless. I will not harm my children's physical, mental, and emotional health further than what has already been done. When my children and others arrive to school, segregation or discrimination is clearly unacceptable. It was stated in the letter that as a district, we want to focus on instruction, learning loss, and the social and emotional needs of our students. Well, then please do this. Focus on what was stated in our board's letter. Focus on education and social and emotional needs. Do what the Galt Elementary School District does best, education. Thank you. Thank you again for the accommodation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Okay, public comment is now concluded. We will continue with a discussion amongst the board. So fellow board members, first of all, I guess, what are your thoughts in regards to this item? Oh, sure, go ahead.
Okay. Cleo, I know this can't be answered now, but I would like in the future, I would like research and data of how masks actually lessen learning and education in the classroom. I want numbers. I'm requesting data and research on numbers of how masks in the classroom lessen a child's education. I keep hearing that it does. I have not seen numbers, especially because we're just starting out in school. So for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gracie. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Some clarifications for the letter from the insurance company. It states in the letter that we as a board, the leaders of the district, and even it's made it sound like even the teachers, anybody who's employed by the district would not be covered if there's like an outbreak or somebody gets sick in the classroom and somebody decides to sue us. Is that correct?
If we choose to not follow a mandate, really any mandate that's put upon us as educational, public education, in this situation, this is a health mandate. If we were to choose to willfully not follow this, yes, the legal advice, or this is from actually schools insurance authority, their attorney, it's not our attorney. It is stating that they could choose not to cover us legally. I believe we do. Ms. Bach, do we still have our legal counsel, Chris Kiner, on the call or on the line?
Yes, we do.
I know, yes, I hope so.
Hello, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Good
Chris,
evening.
could you, did you hear that from Mr. Cagle and a little more explanation on the legal memo from our insurance company?
Yes, I did. A member of the public questioned the memo. The memo is actually, this is the position of Schools of Insurance Authority, basically the joint powers agency that insures districts in Sacramento County and elsewhere in the state. And they're basically saying that this is a mandate from the state, which is correct, and that if a district willfully fails to follow the mandate and there's any legal difficulty, they will not do two things. One is they will not hire or employ a attorney to defend the district. So there's a significant cost to the district from that. And the second point is any school district, start with employees, any classified employee, any teacher, any administrator, up to the elected officials who's involved in not implementing the mandate could be sued if something goes wrong with a student and would not be covered. So that's, for better or for worse, that's standard insurance law. There's no question about it. District, any public agency can't go out and willfully not follow the state education code or whatever the code might be and have insurance coverage. So there's no coverage for intentional acts. There's no coverage for intentional decisions to not follow a binding guidance from the state agencies. And so it's pretty much says what it says. I know it's got a lot of legalese and insurance speak, but basically it's saying that you're on your own.
Thanks, Chris. And reason I'm bringing that out is because it's not just us that can be sued. It's our teachers' assistants, instructional assistants. It's the teachers. If a teacher is like, well, I'm not going to enforce this, it can come back on them as well.
Yes, that is accurate.
That is correct.
So thank you very much, Chris. Any other questions or discussion? Myself, I'm really curious as to whether or not the rest of the board feels that this letter really meets our intent. Based on public comments that we've heard this evening, I'm not sure that the public fully understands what our intent was by asserting our need to establish local control, or actually reestablish local control of the school board, and what our reasoning was behind that. And a lot of the discussion, of course, has been around the wearing of masks, which, at least in my eyes, is really an issue has already been settled. I think legally, it's already been established, our responsibility. I think also morally and ethically, we have a responsibility to ensure that mandate is followed. And I don't know if that's clear in this letter. So for myself personally, I am not confident that this letter accomplishes what we had originally intended or what we had asked. I don't know, what do the rest of you think about? Does this letter work for you, or what do you think?
Well, we had heard from both sides that both sides have issues with the letter. That's all I took of it. So obviously, yeah, to me, if the public is not understanding the letter, and I think there's some issues with it.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Well, that's it for our discussion then. If that's the case, I will ask then, do I have a motion to approve item 212.213?
I motion to table it for now.
Okay, I have a motion to table this item. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, the motion has been seconded. This item will be tabled and we will revisit it at a later date if we so determine. Thank you very much.
I do have one clarification. Could we clarify about open house, or excuse me, back to school night?
Sure, we can cover that.
Board President Silva, we need to,
We still need a vote on that item?
yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize we needed to vote on tabling an item. Okay, so then we have a motion and we have a second. Go ahead.
Tom Silva,
So I'm saying yes to table it. I guess that would be
Wesley
affirmative,
Cagle?
yes. Aye.
Casey Raboy. Thank you. Item number 212213 will be tabled.
And then just to follow on for that, next, because we'll actually cover that in item G, if you don't mind. But then just out of curiosity, item E, do we have any further requests for public comment for items not on the agenda?
No, we do not.
Okay, at that point, then we'll move on to item G, and then I'll let you, Superintendent Yount, respond to that request.
The request to speak to back to school night?
Yes, I think that was the question.
Okay, all right, yes. So with the recommendations, or with the guidelines, there is a recommendation. It's not a mandate, but a recommendation to limit large gatherings. So we have looked at back to school night, and it would be a large gathering. It would be indoors. We could have up to 30 plus, 40 plus adults, students in a classroom, especially in an intermediate classroom. We can't guarantee that all adults would follow a mandate to wear a mask inside a classroom. And we were weighing the health risk with that. Back to school night is an event that we can do virtually. What we are going to do is our teachers will be presenting back to school night in their classrooms live virtually at the regularly scheduled time that the school would hold a back to school night. Some of the other beginning of the year events that we are still going to hold, because we do deem them as definitely essential for our little ones, that would be preschool and kindergarten meet the teacher days. The teachers, or excuse me, parents and students would they would have the opportunity to come into the classroom, look at the cubbies, meet their teacher. And also we are still going to hold our McCaffrey Middle School orientation. We deemed that as very important to have in person as well. For many students, it's the first time that they are on the middle school campus. So they will become familiar with the campus at night. We also are looking at still holding at Lake Canyon Elementary. It is their meet and greet that they do annually before school starts. We're going to continue with that because that event will be outdoors. So at this time, weighing the health and safety recommendations for large indoor gatherings and the fact that it would be impossible to mandate the adults on campus mask indoors, we have made that decision.
What about McCaffrey's orientation?
McCaffrey's orientation is both indoors and outdoors. And we are splitting that up by alphabet. I believe there's 2 sessions for that. And so we are trying to spread out as much as possible.
So it will continue as scheduled.
Yes,
Yeah.
the orientation will continue. The back to school night orientation for McCaffrey will still be in person.
Is Lake Canyon the only school that does the meet and greet?
They are the only school that does a meet and greet like that prior to school starting.
Would a teacher or school have the option, or is it just kind of too short notice right now if they wanted to do that outdoors?
What some of our sites are doing, they're not holding a meet and greet the way Lake Canyon typically has done. in the past, but some sites are going to, after they post the class list where parents can go and see who their child is, they are going to open up the campus, open up the gates, and allow families to come on campus. It will be all outdoors to find their classroom.
So it's not a scheduled event.
It's not
It's
as,
just kind of roaming around, just like right now, we can all go outside and wander around River Oaks right now, correct?
well, what some of our sites are considering is we send out a Blackboard message. We send an all-call message saying that class lists will be posted 5 o'clock on Wednesday, for example. And with that message, we would say that the gates would be open and that you would be able to come on campus. You'd be able to find your classroom, but it would be all outdoors.
So if the teachers wanted to go in front of their classroom at that time, I mean, that would be their choice.
Yes,
Okay.
that would be their choice. Typically, teachers are not around once class lists are posted. Typically, they are not around. It's past contract time and standard practices. You post the list 5 o'clock or when the office closes and then everyone leaves campus.
Any other questions? Or requests for clarification? No? Okay, item G, pending agenda items. We're still looking at school district properties, low performing block grant, mathematics, and then Brown Act updates. So if there are no other further questions or comments, then this meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you very much.